I looked for cover or concealment everywhere I went for 24 hours. That's what we're going to talk about in this video today, folks. So let's get started. If you had to take cover right now, where would you go? Would it actually stop a bullet or just get you shot, say, second? Today, I spent 24 hours evaluating every place I went, grocery stores, retail stores, small gift shops, you name it, and I asked one question that could save your life. Hey folks, Steve from Martell Training Group. As a retired New Jersey State Trooper and firearms instructor, I've taught many civilians and law enforcement officers how to stay safe under pressure. But one of the most overlooked skills I see is the ability to quickly and correctly identify real cover when things go bad. Because in a violent situation, milliseconds matter, and what you duck behind could mean life or death. Let's break this down real quick. Cover is something that stops bullets. Brick wall, concrete barrier, engine block, a solid oak desk. Concealment hides you, but won't stop a thing. So think curtains, bushes, drywall. It's false safety. In a threat, you actually want both, but if you have to choose the one that stops the bullets. So for the next 24 hours, I evaluated every environment I entered looking for the first object that could give me cover. I gave each object a quick rating. Red is useless or concealment only. Green is actually real cover. But there's another detail I want you to start noticing, and it's just as critical. Exits. Every time I walked into one of these locations, I looked for two things in addition to my cover or concealment. I look for public exits and employee-only exits or entrances. You have to ask yourself which ones are clearly marked, which ones are secured. Can you open them, or are they access controlled for staff only? In a crisis, the path you ignore could be the one that gets you out. Next, I'm going to show you where I went and what I noticed. We're going to walk through these locations, but don't worry because I'll speed it up so you're not bored. One of the things I notice about large retail stores like Target and Lowe's, usually in each of the four corners, there's some type of exit or access to another room or dressing room or restroom or something of an area that you can access or possibly access. In addition, when these large retail stores, I also noticed that about midway each wall, so the back wall, the side wall, there's usually a door or some type of a room or access point to another part of the store. And it may or may not be access to the public, so it may just be a employee-only area, or it could be a dressing room if it's a retail clothing store. It could be a stock room that's locked and you need an access code to get in. But I did notice at stores like Target, for example, they have huge swinging doors. They can push carts and racks of goods through. They come through these doors. So don't discount these rooms or access points for you to use in an emergency. First stop, Ulta Beauty store. Now before you ask, yes, I was at Ulta Beauty. Why? Because I have daughters. And apparently lip gloss now comes in tactical pink. So that's good news. Ulta was bright, clean, and wide open. The shelves are filled with plastic and glass. No ballistic protection there at all. Your best bet, there weren't too many. There were a couple of counters, the counter cashier in the front of the store, and also there's a counter area in the back of the store that I noticed looks pretty solid. There also are concrete flower pots in the front of the store before you come in, so if you happen to be out there, that may be a point of cover. But most of these items in Ulta, nail polish, makeup, lotions, I would not consider most of that store to be cover. I would consider most of it to be concealment, which again, if you have your choice, you want cover, but in concealment, if that's all you have, then you go with it. Barnes & Noble bookstore. Obviously, there are a lot of books on most of these shelves. Some of the shelves have gift items, like small gift shop type items. Some of them have magazines, but a lot of the bookshelves have books on both sides. So of course, it could potentially be cover if you have solid books on both sides of the bookshelf and you're using one of these bookshelves for cover. It's possible it could stop a bullet depending on what's being fired at you and what's on those bookshelves. There's also a employee help desk area in the middle of this store. In particular, I saw that looks like it's got a pretty solid desk area. So if I was in this area close to this, I might consider using this as cover, even temporarily. I also noticed the exits and employee only access points at various locations in the store. Michael's, which is a craft store. Yes, I also went to Michael's. Again, daughters. I did find something useful or interesting to me. So when you're in this type of store, think paper, plastic bins, art supplies, not exactly bullet stoppers. But back near the stockroom and restroom area, there's exits and spots that you could consider using as cover. There's also a large table area near the framing section. If you had to take cover and you were in this area, also notice that there were cutaways and about halfway through the store, midpoint on the wall for the restrooms and also employee stockroom. Lowe's home improvement store. This is very similar to Home Depot. I went to both during this 24 hours. Full of lumber, full of mulch, full of concrete bags. This stuff is real cover, folks, and I've talked about this in other videos. So you see a pallet of concrete bags. They are good places to use for cover. Now, obviously, the whole store doesn't have pallets of concrete around, but there are many areas in Lowe's and Home Depot that you can use as cover. Now, of course, if you're in the patio, outdoor patio furniture area, that's not going to help you much. Again, large store, four corners of the store, there's usually some exit or access to another point in the store, whether it be restrooms, employee locker room, or backs. I don't know if they really have stock rooms per se, but they do have areas of the store I noticed that you can see into, that the employees freely move in there. There's merchandise in these areas. So again, keep this stuff in mind that in an emergency, you can use whatever you need to keep yourself and your family safe. Target retail superstore. I guess we could compare this to like Walmart, open, bright, but again, mostly concealment here, folks. Clothing racks, light furniture, seasonal displays, food areas. I look for cover in the home decor aisle, but the throw pillows aren't really going to help. Really just going to be concealment. One of the areas I see as potential cover, the huge employee-only swinging doors that they use, I'm sure, to access a stockroom. Obviously, anybody can go through these doors. It looks to me, when I saw them open, it looked like there were some areas of cinder block that you could potentially hide behind or escape. Now, there also is a frozen food section. These freezers are obviously, they're thicker than most of the displays and they're filled with frozen goods. So potentially an area for cover, folks, if you need to. But again, in a store like this, you're going to be talking about an active shooter type situation. You're going to want to be moving. You're going to want to be trying to get out. And some of these spots that we're talking about, you may only need a few seconds if you are a concealed carry person. You may only need a few seconds available to access your concealed carry and figure out where these shots or the threat is coming from. Your typical coffee shop like a Starbucks, there's an area here you can see in this particular Starbucks that there's a sit down area that's off to the side. So you may be sitting back here or you may be at the counter ordering. And if you need to go back there, certainly you have that option available to you. Think in terms of you're standing there, you're out in the open, somebody comes in, there's usually if it's a large enough store, there's usually a secondary exit. So think in terms of which exit am I close to? If you need to go behind the counter where the employees are because that countertop looks pretty solid, then you do it. Of course, restrooms are always an option, but again, think in terms of you're going to go into these access points. Ideally, they would have an alternate exit. So if you go into a restroom, just know that it's probably not a great spot because there is only usually one way in and one way out. I also went to a pet store. There are a lot of bags of dog food stacked waist high. So of course, a lot of this stuff in this store is concealment only, but if there are areas of displays that have thick wood and solid construction, then that could work as a cover as well as concealment. I noticed some exit employee only doors, but also emergency exits as well. Remember that nothing says tactical like being flanked by dog biscuits and squeaky toys. Now inside this small gift shop, again, went in here with my girls, very cozy, but a little cramped. Narrow aisles, wooden shelving, breakables everywhere. Mostly concealment here. Now I go into a store like this, it makes me feel a little bit uneasy as far as where you can go because there aren't many options. There was a very small checkout area, a counter area. That counter area was the only area other than shelves that I could see that would be possibly cover for you in this little store. And remember that when there's a door behind a small store like that, it may not be allow an exit. It may just be a back stock room or storeroom. In a small store like that, there may only be an exit or entrance in the front of the store. I did go to a Whole Foods market. Now this was a little interesting. A lot of glass up front, not really any cover there. I did notice the stock room. When I was in the back of the store looking down some of the aisles, there's some metal pallet racks and a concrete loading dock I noticed. So these are good options. Obviously, if you're in the front of the store, chances are you're not going to make it all the way to the back of the store, but who knows? If you're in the back of the store and something happens, know that that may be your best option to go into that back stock room. Again, some of the doors are access coded with combination locks. Some of them are just freely open and you can access them back and forth. I actually got some strange looks crouching behind the quinoa. Great source of fiber, but not cover, barely even concealment. One of the places I went to was the Ocean City, New Jersey Boardwalk. 4th of July, many people. It was packed. I just wanted to do this and show this briefly that of course outside changes everything. We could do a whole video on just situational awareness and personal safety when you're outdoors, but a lot of this stuff does apply. Clearly you don't have walls, you don't have structures, you're open, there are people everywhere. Obviously if something happens, if people start hearing shots or they see a threat, they're gonna all run to the closest exit. That's gonna cause a bottleneck. So of course, my best suggestion to you is always keep in mind when you're walking down the boardwalk, there are various spots that you can exit the boardwalk, whether on the beach or into a store, or sometimes they even have ramps off to street access from the boardwalk. So I would say keep those places in mind. If something happens, you might know in your head, okay, the closest street access is behind me half a block, and that's the way you're going to go. Unless the threat's coming from that direction, then you're going to need to go the other direction. Sometimes in a situation like this with a boardwalk, your best bet may be to duck into one of the retail stores. It may not have an exit. The entrance and exit may be that main one at the boardwalk, but a lot of them do have exits in the rear. They have stock rooms in the back. So keep that in mind. Just something to think about as you're walking down or along the boardwalk. Hey, if I needed to go in that store, They sell beach towels and beachwear, probably just be mostly concealment. And a lot of these stores, unfortunately, they're going to be clothing, they're going to be gifts, small gifts. They're going to be mostly concealment, but there are a couple that you probably could use if you needed to. Trash cans, although they look like they're solid concrete, they're plastic. So again, this might be a quick concealment for you. If you're a concealed carry person, maybe access your concealed carry to try to figure out where the threat is coming from, because sometimes when there's hundreds of people all around, really difficult to see or identify where the threat's coming from. So that may be just enough concealment, enough time for you to go for your concealed carry and figure out where the threat's coming from. And don't forget about the parking, of course, when you're going to an event like fireworks and there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of people. Think about where you're parking. When you're going back to your car, it's going to be late, it's going to be dark. Have that flashlight handy, of course, that everyday carry that has a strobe function. And just be ready, be aware of where you're parking. You might not have many choices. If there are a lot of people, try to stay where the crowd is if you can. If you're by yourself, a lighted area, of course, is ideal. So these various stops and locations that I visited throughout the day or so reminded me of something that we forget way too often. You can't wait for the moment to learn what cover looks like or where the exits are. You have to train your eye now, because real threats don't give you second chances. 3 things you can do today to increase your odds in a violent encounter. Number 1, practice locating cover and concealment in every environment. So wherever you go, just take a few seconds when you're standing in line, when you're walking around looking at things, take a few seconds and say, oh, that would be good cover. That would be good concealment. That would definitely hide me, but offer really no protection from bullets. Number 2, rehearse movements. Practice, as odd as it sounds, practice going from standing to crouching. Practice running behind a display. It might seem a little odd if you're at a store, but you can do this in your own home. You could practice, oh, I'm just walking along, all of a sudden, threat happens, I'm going to crouch, I'm going to move to an area. Number 3, start tracking exits or ways to escape. So not only the public access exits, the common ones and the emergency ones. And in the large stores, the big stores, you can see them on the ceilings. Remember, you don't need to be paranoid, just prepared. And preparation starts with seeing the world like a survivor, not a victim. If you want to learn more about situational awareness and personal safety, check out the videos in the description for more information. Also on the screen, if you want a free personal safety and situational awareness guide, you can click on that link and we'll send you out a free PDF. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay safe.